it came natural to me to like do this. Like I want to end it. I want to kill myself.
All right. So for 3 decades, Fear Factory has absolutely dominated the heavy metal scene. I'm joined today with Milo, who has some pretty big shoes to fill with Burton exiting the band. How did that come about?
So, I mean, the whole story, I think a lot of people know it by now, but it all started from YouTube during the pandemic, which is pretty crazy. And I've always been a massive hardcore Fear Factory fan, like how much Fear Factory fan? Like I knew all the lyrics, all the songs, all the discography, that much of a Fear Factory fan. So I had pictures with Bert and Dino when they played in Rome back in 2012. And so for me, it was like when people say, you achieved your dream, I'm like, wasn't even a dream, bro. It wasn't even a thought. Like singing for your favorite band? What the hell? So that's the level of surreal, that the story reaches. So long story short, Dino, of course, as a lot of people know, Dino and Bert were going through a legal suit with 2 of the ex-members of Fear Factory, and Dino started to look around because they were fighting separately, and Bert, probably he noticed that Bert was already like 1 foot out, I guess. So he started to look around and just, randomly look in the internet, but he couldn't say anything because they're still going through a legal suit. So he couldn't announce, I'm looking for, Bert hadn't left the band at that point. So, it was all like, let's just look on the internet and just see what's in there. And he just found this weirdo from Rome doing Fear Factory covers. and he messaged me. And my covers were just for fun because we're all in lockdown, which in Italy, I don't know if you were in England back then, but in Europe, especially in Italy, the lockdown was pretty brutal and pretty sooner than the United States. It was actually in, I think, February 2020. So, yeah, so we were all bored, and my family, we're all musicians. So my dad, my mom, my mom's husband, back then I was living with my mom and her husband in the same house. We had a studio downstairs and with 2 rooms. We actually, the previous year, 2019, we spent a lot of money to build a studio in that house. To make it work, doing like a music school because they also teach music. They are vocal teachers, and I'm also a percussionist. I teach percussions and drums. So, and then boom, COVID hits, lockdown hits, and we cannot use that studio. So we start doing covers. If you go on YouTube, you can actually find a lot of covers of me, my mother, and my mother's husband. They're like blues, gospel, rhythm and blues guys. So. Yeah, so I was doing recording in my old studio, in real time, and we were pretty much doing not streaming, but like recording our performances with the GoPro and stuff, and just and real time audio, and just putting on YouTube. Ask people for donations because we couldn't work as artists, and so I also started doing Fear Factory covers. Just speaking of therapy, music has always been my therapy, and while drumming and, drums, the percussions, turntables, being an instrumentalist, playing an instrument, it is a therapy, but it was also like something that came up as a passion. I like banging on things. I like scratching. I like rhythm. I like playing. But singing came out a little later for me when I was 19 or 20 because I was going through some, I guess some typical adolescence dramas, which it's funny. If I tell you about it right now, you just laugh about it because it's just being, I don't know, for instance, like being depressed because that girl that didn't even kiss you just reject you, just like that. It's laughable right now, but as a teenager, you just you just live it as a drama. Also started to go through my first panic attacks and anxiety disorders, several kinds of disorders. So singing, I started singing not because I liked to sing. I didn't like to sing. I didn't see myself as a frontman back then, but as a therapy. Like, I don't even like doing that, but I have to do it because I need to write lyrics and get the shit out of my system. So fast forward to 2020, that was still my therapy, singing. So I'm like, I'm going to sing some Fear Factory songs, which happened to be a medley of Soul of a New Machine and later on Resurrection and Timelessness, which are, to me, I'm not a religious person, but that's my kind of like spiritual dimension where I kind of like feel like I'm speaking to like, I don't like to say God or gods, but like, I don't know, the universe, whatever that is. Yeah, I don't even know what that is. But like, I feel like I'm connecting with like things, And so and it was a tough moment because, more heartbreaks, more, I lost 2 of my pets. I lost my, my longtime cat, my longtime iguana. I'm a reptile dad as well. And it was pretty tough. And we all got COVID. My mom's husband got hospitalized because he got it pretty bad. We were scared for his life. So it was a tough moment. And that was really like therapy for me. So I put those songs out. And Dino just happened to comment on this New Breed of Fear Factory Facebook group. And he pretty much contacted me one day and just said, I like your job. Can I ask, can I talk with you? Can I ask you a couple of questions? And I was like, what the hell is going on? Like, your idol messaging you? Like, that's pretty crazy. So from there, it just progressed into like, what it is nowadays, which is pretty crazy. When Burton C announced his departure only in September 2020, at that stage, me and Dina have been talking every now and then. He was like, can you do this cover? Can you do that cover? He was sending me instrumentals. And he didn't say the reason why, other than a little article popped up saying Dino is looking for a singer for a side project because he cannot tour with Fear Factory because it is held down by the legal suit. So in order to make money elsewhere, he was thinking about a solo project. And I was like, oh, that would be awesome, like singing for Dino's solo project. But even at that stage, I have never, ever thought that could have led to Fear Factory. Like that. And as a matter of fact, when Bert announced he left the band, I was sad. I'm like, oh my God, I love Burton C. And he's one of the main reasons why I'm here, because I'm so inspired by his work and his vocal legacy. And 4 or 5 days later, 4 or 5 days after he announced the departure, Dino's like, well, now I'm going to have to auditions for the spot of vocalist for Fear Factory. Do you still want to try? I'm like, do I still want to try? The hell? I was just like, I didn't see it coming. So yeah, this is pretty much it. I'm sorry that the synthesis is not a gift that I've been given. I'm really like talkative, but
no, dude, no, you are so good. Like, so it's gone from like, this is, one of, if not my favorite band, to, COVID sucks. I'm going to, record some of these songs and just, because everyone was doing that at that point. I like did some DJ sets for, like, I was supposed to be DJing a music festival that year. And so we ended up like pre-recording these DJ sets that went out onto a virtual music festival. And so everyone was doing that kind of thing to, oh, hey, Dino's liking it, to Dino's messaging you, to, hey, come try out for Fear Factory. And I like, I have a suspicion, obviously, the songs that he was like, hey, can you cover this? Can you cover this? Was to see whether you could perform it and whether you could do it. And I have to tell you, and not just to blow smoke up your butt or whatever, it's like the cover, like when I saw you, I saw a couple of videos of you, I think you were performing Demanufacture, I think. It's when you close your eyes, yeah, the live one. Yeah, when you close your eyes, it's like it still sounds like Fear Factory. It doesn't sound like Fear Factory with a new vocalist. It just sounds like Fear Factory. So yeah, so that must be quite. Oh, dude, thank you. Yeah, no, it's genuinely, I was just like, wow, he's nailed it. And it's just, you're keeping you're honoring the sound. Yeah, yeah, exactly. You're keeping it alive and then bringing your own flavor into it. Like, yeah. So that must be quite intimidating to like go from fan to, oh, I'm now the singer of the band. And what's it been? Yeah, what's it been like jumping straight into like? I guess you went straight into touring, right? Or did you have a few shows here and there to try it out, or what did that look like?
Was literally straight into touring, and of course, Dino was concerned because, oh, you have never toured, so you got to learn this and this and this, so he was trying to teach me, how to act on tour, the tour ethic, all these things, because I have been a professional musician like my parents since I was 12, literally. But and I always work only, like, all the income I've made since I was 12 was only by from music, but not in this like touring industry, not to this level. I was just playing local shows in Rome. I have played few shows out of Rome and even outside Italy, but like really rarely. I wasn't really into touring, and I was trying to make it with my own band. That channel, which I still have, which is coming back, by the way, slowly, whenever I have time. We're just working on a little something, but that's and that's I was just trying, like all like emerging artists in the underground, just try to make it, but that was my goal, to tour, to be a tour musician for a living and play in front of like I don't want to say arenas, but like big crowds, and just make a lot of people happy. Which to me it's all about that. And so yeah, back to the main topic. The thing is, that was my first tour, and it was February 2023. It was a Static X tour, and that couldn't have been a better initiation for me, because I'm a huge Static X fan, and of course having Tony in the band, it's a dream. It is crazy because only in 2019, like we're talking like probably 3 months before Dino contacted me, I was in North Italy watching Static X live with the new lineup. I mean, with the classic lineup and the new singer Zero. And I was so happy, like, and as a drummer, I'm a huge fan of Ken, the drummer, Ken J, that came back. And I was lucky enough to catch Ken and Koichi after the show, and I was fanboying so bad, like, I'm gonna take a picture. And then just a few months later, Dino contacts me, and like 3 years later, I'm there hanging out with Ken, Koichi, Tony, like every day, and they're just like, "Oh, don't worry, man, you're my friend now." And I'm just like, "Holy!" So, yeah, that was a great tour. Great guys. Static X are just total sweethearts. The best people ever. And I learned a lot of things. It was there was a lot of pressure, of course, because it was the first time in a lot of things. First time Fear Factory came out with a new singer. First time Fear Factory came out without Burton C, which is something that still nowadays a lot of people are just like, I don't know if I should give it a try without Bert, which I understand. I mean, he's a iconic singer, So yeah, I pretty much had to dive straight into touring, and I still remember the adrenaline of the first show. It was pretty intense. I actually had to I wasn't doing like constant psychotherapy back then, but I had to go back to do one session with my longtime therapist before taking off to the States, because I'm like, okay, this is unreal. I don't know if I can cope with it and like sustain such stress. And so we had this session. Is like, you're good. You're good. You're gonna be fine. Well, I mean, let's say we had some preparation, of course, rehearsal. I remember I got there on February 5th, 2023, and the tour started on February 24th or 25th, something like that. And so I had like 2-3 weeks where I could, get accustomed. I'm in LA. I stay at Dino's house, which he kindly accommodates me in his house. He has a spare room for me and Pete, our drummer, whenever we need to be there for rehearsal or band duties. So I kind of like adapted to this new LA house, which is it's pretty like feels like home now, like being when I'm there with Dino and stuff. And so at first it was everything was scary, like it's just that was my second time in the States. The first time was when I went there for the audition in 2021, which was when the States lifted the travel ban for COVID, which almost screwed this chance for me. I mean, I made it like for this far. So it was really, I was so scared that I couldn't have made it, but I barely made it. And that was my first time. But my second time, which of course was February 2023, was, preparations before the tour, blah, blah, blah. We got, I had a lot of interviews back then, and I was like, my English was good, but wasn't probably as good as now. So, and when you're under a lot of pressure, the accent slips, and the grammar, it's more likely to happen, I guess. It wasn't that bad, but if I watched my interviews back then, I can tell that there was a little bit more of like nervousness. And so a lot of pressure, but I think it just the only way to like get accustomed to all this new life change is just like go through it, and just like, you're gonna be fine. Just nothing, you're not gonna die. You'll be fine, and that's pretty much what happened. And now, I just go to. I actually cannot wait to go to tour. I always like it. It's kind of like summer camp. So.
I hung out with I interviewed El Nino last season of the podcast, and one of the things I found really interesting is all of them, like as full-time touring musicians, say that when they get back, there's a sense of not knowing what to do with themselves. Like touring becomes such a key component in their lives that like when they get back, they're kind of a little bit lost. Are you at that point yet, or do you still find that like you're still adjusting to touring, and so it's a nice break when you come back?
Oh, absolutely. Like you actually mentioned something that I was talking about to someone recently, like right after we came back from this last tour. I mean, I think it happened before, but specifically after this last tour we did was like probably 2 months, I want to say. And we came from a month. So we toured a month in August in Europe. We played a lot of festivals. We played Bloodstock, a lot of cool festivals, Wacken. And then I barely had like probably, I want to say 2 weeks home, 2 weeks and a half. And then back in the States, maybe a couple days of rehearsal, I guess. 2 or 3 days of rehearsal, and then boom, back on the road again. So realistically, like not even a month of break, and then more 2 months of touring in the States with Cavalera. And then right after that, the Headbangers Boat, which is awesome. And it's been like 3-4 days on this massive metal cruise. And after that, I remember thinking like, oh my God, I feel like I was at Dino's house. And I waited a little bit before going back home. And I remember thinking, oh, damn, I kind of feel like useless right now. I've been so much stimulated that there is this post. I mean, I remember Dino mentioning that, like, get ready for this. It's a thing. It's called post-tour depression. And it totally made sense once I experienced that, because it's exactly like you said, like, you're so overwhelmed, like meeting people every day, you know, people that want to take pictures with you and you know, they treat you like I don't want to say a god, but you know, like an idol, and which I still feel like I'm a fan, like you guys, you know, like I'm not an idol, come on. And but they treat you like that. They think you are, and you play in front of crowds every day. You always have this like fight or flight pressure. You know, I gotta be 100% functioning on stage. You know, I gotta fight tiredness. I gotta take my as much sleep as possible. I gotta feel rested, and so there is always this like stress of like fitting in the lines. You know, that once everything is over, just like. So now what?
It's so interesting how people do treat you differently. Like so I'm really good friends with Brian Welch from Korn, and so whenever they're in the UK, I go and hang out with him, and it's so wild how people treat you when they find out you know you're friends with Brian. They're like, "Oh, how are you? Can I do anything for you?" And it's just like it's so wild that people's mentality like just flips. And I guess the question I have is like, have you found that it's been a bit weird going from like being just Milo to, oh look, this is Milo from Fear Factory, oh my gosh, I love you so much type thing?
Yeah, I mean, of course, if they know who Fear Factory are, if they're fans or even like metal fans. Some of them might not be exactly like Fear Factory fans. Maybe they just know a few songs, or they just know the band because Fear Factory's been a well-respected name in metal community, even from people, from metalheads that are not necessarily big fans, but are still like, oh, Fear Factory, you know, respect. So when they know that, just like, oh, that we're talking like you're fronting an old school band, you know, like just a legacy, you know, that's, you know, congrats. So I totally see the fact that they and appreciate the fact that they have such respect and reverence of this name that I'm, I guess, representing right now. And again, real appreciative of that. So yeah, I mean, I totally see it. As far as how people change their behavior with you, it's funny because you might think that a lot of people, once you go that high and make it that far, people start being opportunistic with you, like, you know, just try to show up and stuff. But in my case, I haven't really, I mean, I've seen that, of course, you know, you see all the time. People are like, oh, I had people that trying so bad to sell their band, you know, we have to open for you guys. I'm like, I'm not the promoter, bro.
Right.
I'm just a new guy. I'm not even.
Yeah, you don't have that like ability to like suddenly, oh, here's a demo. Oh, thanks. What do you want me to do with this? Like, you know.
Yeah, dude, like it's crazy. I've seen people like doing it with such audacity, like using these words. We have to open for you guys. And I'm like, you have to. I don't even reply to that when I get that, because I mean, it's not that often, but I had a couple things like that, but it is what it is. I mean, if you just say it would be an honor or I would be happy to open for you, I understand it. I mean, like, if I like your band, I would even be like, oh yeah, if it was for me, you know, I would have you guys. But ironically, I saw mostly the other aspect of jealousy, if you will, or envy, which is the snobbing part. You know, people snobbing you, like people that were meant to be friends, you know, maybe like longtime friends. And a lot of people are just like, maybe, you know, see me in the street here in Rome, they don't even ask about it. You know, it's not that I expect them to ask about it, but at the same time, the fact that they're ignoring it tells you something. You know what I mean? Like they know, and they just go like, ah, yes. So they're trying to minimize it in a way, you know. Or when I was announced, I remember one of the biggest like form of passive aggressive behavior to express their envy was like people that were singing like singers. They were and they were like unknown, like weren't like famous, or like peers of mine, if you will. And they were like, "Oh, I'm so happy for you, blah blah blah. By the way, if you need any vocal lesson, just hit me up." And I'm like, "Vocal lesson? I mean, if I need vocal lessons, I'll hit up my mom and her husband, which are professionally trained vocal teachers, which I have, because I've always been a professional drummer. Singing was more like a soulful thing, never been like a technical singer. I mean, I know music theory, but I never proper studied, like the instrument of singing, like every day, and thanks to my mom and her husband, I really started to, and I'm still doing it. I don't feel like I'm all good now. I'm the best singer. No, I'm still working on my voice every day. But the fact that these people are, sneaking these passive aggressive things, it just shows you that they are kind of like, trying to tell you, hey, you made it, but you're still not as good as I am.
It's so wild, like how people react. But going back to the vocal thing, I was going to talk about that earlier, but it's like obviously where you've grown up with musical parents and music has been part of your life from such a young age. I was going to ask what it's like going from not really, singing a lot to touring. It takes a toll on your voice. It really, like it can be tough, especially if you don't vocal rest properly and stuff. Have you found there's been any issues with it, or do you feel like your parents have trained you so well, you got this?
Oh, I mean, fortunately enough, again, my mom has been really helpful in teaching me how to take care of my voice. And of course, she taught me, all the the classic tricks. I don't know if you know this herb called hedge mustard. We call it erisimo in Italian. It's called also like the singing herb, the vocalist herb. It's really soothing for vocal cords. I'm currently doing it right now, just to keep my voice clean and healthy. And you just gargle it, you just drink it. You can do tea with it. There are, a lot of tricks. Of course, when you're on tour, the basic rules are, don't shout, don't talk loud if you're not on stage, because that can be can do more damage than, screaming for an hour on stage. So, which fortunately enough, I'm not a party animal. I've never been like, I don't drink really. If I do, it's about like this much of rum. I never do it on tour, but when I'm here in Rome, maybe with friends, I don't even drink beer. I maybe drink a little Italian red wine, but we're talking like this much for the whole night. And I just sip it. I like to taste it slowly, but I don't really drink when I'm on tour, and don't smoke, of course. And so I don't, a couple times I've been asked after a show to go to a pub to hang out. And just like, it just, if you guys want to hang out, we will hang out on the bus and talk low, where there is no noise going on, and I can talk low and I can, there is also, because not just because you don't want to use your voice too much and talk loud in a pub, but also because of the overstimulation. After a show, I like to just chill. So yeah. And of course, a lot of warm up, My mom always told me that your vocal cords are a muscle, exactly like an athlete. If you play soccer, you gotta keep your muscle trained. So it's also good to warm up every day and exercise your muscle every day, And when you don't sing for a long time, like at all, you are going to feel it. It's kind of like not playing soccer for a while, and then you're like, oh, my calves are hurting, and that's the same thing. So doing a little bit not super hardcore screaming, but a little bit of like harsh vocals just to train your muscles, your false chord, whatever, and normal singing, like clean singing every day, like a little bit just to keep your muscle, prepared and not prepared, but like used to the strain, and in shape. It's nothing but healthy. So
Yeah. No, that's cool. I think it's good that you found that, because a lot of, I know a lot of vocalists over the years have like their voice has actually physically changed because of the amount of damage they did early albums. They did so much screaming and not screaming properly that by like the third album in, they're like having to do clean vocals. And yeah.
yeah, especially I feel like especially this style. Like I always say, I think that Burton C. Bell screaming style. I mean, he's pretty much iconic in both clean and screaming. He was the first one to combine the both, before anyone else was doing it, or doing it in a formulaic way, like, almost every song. And his, of course, both his screaming tone and his clean tone are, they sound like nobody else, literally. Like you hear Bert, it's Bert. And the screaming tone, especially the one I'm going for, which I think his peak was probably, for me, it was during Obsolete, and his screaming tone on Obsolete, I think it was one of the most ferocious and ruthless of the whole history of metal. And that's what I go for. And working on it, I found out that the screaming that I was doing before joining Fear Factory, like for instance in my other band, That Channel, it was more like cold chambery, Static X, kind of like rhythmic and little frier, whereas when you come to like try to nail that vocal tone of Bert, you realize that it's not just about I mean, of course, technique needs to be there in order to not lose your voice, but he would just go wild. It would just put anger, and that's cool because we're now crossing the topic of psychology. A cool thing that my mom always told me about singing, and I think that can be applied to screaming too, is that the best thing you can do to achieve the right technique, it's put the emotion first. So when you think about a note, like for instance, she teaches a lot of blues and gospel, and a lot of notes are, a lot of that music comes from suffering, from like pain. And so you got to think of crying. Like when you cry, you go like this, you raise your cheeks and you think like you're crying. And that, ironically, will lead you to the right technique, which is crazy. It's kind of like we naturally know already how to create these sounds, and the same goes for screaming. And I think Bert would put such anger and was so true to his voice that that's what created his typical vocal sound. And I don't really, personally, I don't want to talk shit, but I don't really see that in a lot of modern bands, like they sound great. I respect every band and hardworking artist, but as a music listener, I cannot really get to like a lot of modern bands because I don't see that kind of being true to your, like, I'm not just a technical screamer and I'm going like, wow, wow, but I'm just screaming because I'm in pain. You know what I mean? And that, it's something that or you're angry or whatever, like feeling like wearing like a skin mask on your face, the emotion conveyed by the scream. That's something that I really see in Burton screams, and something that I try to convey.
So when it comes to vocals, do you channel a lot of your personal emotions into, like, you seem like a very calm, collective, like down to earth guy. Like, is there anger there? Is there, like, what emotions come up for you?
Absolutely. I mean, like I said before, like singing for me came up as a therapy, like literally like writing lyrics and screaming them. So to me, the all like meaning and the all point of singing, whether it's with Fear Factory or other things, it's like therapy. And of course, the beauty of music is that you're giving therapy to yourself, but you're also giving therapy to the ones that are listening, which is, I think, the most beautiful thing about music. And so yeah, absolutely. Like, and of course, I can relate to a lot of Fear Factory lyrics and lines because I've always thought, and I'm pretty sure that behind the Man vs. Machine dystopian story, Bert put some of his personal things and kind of like wrote them as a futuristic tale, but you can tell that a lot of stuff it's personal, like so yeah, and I think that's why a lot of people can relate to it. It's not just like I'm singing about a futuristic story. That story can be your personal story. I mean, you broke it down pretty good in your video. Like, it's I really like that way of explaining it. But there are a lot of like sentences and phrases and lyrics and lines that specifically that resonate with me. There is most likely songs like Resurrection or Therapy for Pain, which we've been playing recently, that they almost all the time, almost every time we play it, the final part just makes me shed tears because it just strikes some chords, and those are the songs that I was listening in my bedroom when I was sad for whatever reason. I was crying to them, So it's it's really cathartic, and I try to like make it come out because, like you said, I come across as a really mellow guy, which I am, but I always say that I'm a mellow guy, try to be respectful to other people, but inside my brain I have war, like literally war, and that's my healthy way to like get it out constantly, So yeah, I mean, it's there are lines, for instance, like the song Replica, a line that goes like, "There was no love for me." It's a line that I can particularly relate to. It's a really simple phrase, it can be like, but if you can relate to that because of whatever reason, something about your life story, it hits pretty hard. So and that is why it came natural to me to like do this. Like I want to end it. I want to kill myself. And it came natural. And I keep doing it every day because like there was love for me. That's it. I want to die. So that's, I guess, an example of like how I wear those lyrics instead of just singing them and just, I think I made them kind of like my own even before joining Fear Factories. Like, because yeah, so yeah, absolutely.
So from what you're saying with the war going on in your head, and you being like you coming across as a well-rounded guy and like grounded and everything like that, that would as a therapist that would indicate to me there's a bit of masking going on for you. Do you feel like that's the case? Like you're kind of masking a little bit sometimes with, I'm a calm guy, but also like I'm so angry inside.
I mean, I don't know if that can be considered masking. You maybe know better than I do, but what I can tell is that as a coping mechanism, since I was a kid, I was really like, it was really difficult for me to like express certain emotions, like when I was afraid or when I was angry, so I was always like looking like everything's okay, but deep inside I was dying. So that's, I feel like that's like an automatism that it's embedded in me since my early years of life, I guess. But that doesn't mean, of course, my like being like a friendly person and respectful person. That's a true aspect of me. It's just that I worked a lot on assertiveness, which is and I'm still working on it. So a lot of times when you're a good person, you tend to be a people pleaser to avoid conflicts, right? Because of certain past traumas or whatever. And later on, you realize that you actually avoid conflicts better if you speak out for yourself. And you can do like in the comment, be like boundaries. Like I don't appreciate that. If you do this one more time, blah blah blah. So, I mean, of course you know what I'm talking about. but yeah, I think that in my case, like metal and singing helped me to speak up for myself. Like, this is not fair. What I am undergoing, the treatment that I am getting from you is not fair. I got to speak up for myself because, especially during, the first half of my life so far, so up until my 20s and early 30s, I was kind of like letting a lot of people getting away with like treating me not good. So, wrong friendships, toxic relationships. And that's because overall, you're just like the mellow guy and they think they can get away with that. And you think, if I'm good and respectful and, try to talk things out. Hey, if you're angry with me, we can talk it out. You think that that's better, but with some people, it's not just not working, because the more you're like calm and talkative, and the more you're just like, I can get advantage of this person even more. So I just right. So I've just learned to let some people go, because some people are just not willing to respect your boundaries. And unfortunately, as much as you can give like thousands of chances to anyone, but once those chances are gone, they're all been used. You didn't have anything else to do but like cut them out, because they probably not even hate you. They're just like not able to like understand that their behavior is like hurting you, and happened with a lot of quite few friends during my life, close friends too, like, people that were my bros, people that I was hanging out with every day almost. And if I think about the way they behave with me, I just get revved up. But if on a more like mature level, if I try to think on a more mature level, I don't hate them. I just sad actually that we couldn't like find a way to communicate, So
yeah, that's a tough one, dude. Yeah, and there's a lot of. I think the older I get, the smaller my friend circle gets, and I like the people around me that like will keep me in check and not afraid to tell me I'm messing up, but also the type of people that will like, that will cheer you on and like be happy that you're achieving stuff in your life. So, yeah, just a final question for you. If anyone that's watching this is really, really struggling right now, what advice would you give them?
Well, first of all, I feel you, because I have been struggling my whole life with mental health. And I just, the first advice that I always give to anybody is just seek for help. Just speak out and seek for help. Don't just end the stigma, fuck the stigma, like there's still a lot of people, especially here in Italy, maybe the older generations, I don't know, but there's still a lot of people that have a lot of stigma. Like, I'm not crazy. Why should I go to the fucking shrink? Like, dude, like if you have a broken arm, you go to the doctor. If you have depression or something, or whatever the like anxiety disorders, I've seen a lot of people like living with their own monsters, and just not doing anything about it. So yeah, I would definitely say speak up and look for help, and just don't listen to anybody. It can be your parents, your friend, your partner, whoever. If they believe that that's useless, they're wrong. They're just wrong, because it's science proven. So it's you just need help. I don't necessarily preach for like seeking medication. I've been taking medications, but that's because I just can't live without it. Like I just have like bad episodes of several kinds of anxiety-based dissociation, like that, panic attacks, whatever. So I need it, but you might not need it, or you might need it for a period. So don't necessarily put the stigma on medications, but that's something that, of course, the psychiatrist should determine. In my personal experience, a psychotherapy that is also a psychiatrist is way more. It will prescribe you, in case you need it, it will prescribe you medications in a way more careful and passionate way, instead of like going to a psychiatrist. And I've done that too, like spending €150 for a psychiatrist just to get like, oh, so what do you have? Oh, dissociation, panic attacks. Okay, take this and this and this. See you later. And that, I'm not sure about that. I'm just saying that in my personal experience, a therapist, or maybe, you probably know that you've been doing that probably, a therapist that works with a psychiatrist, so they kind of share information about their patients, right? That's also something that I believe in. So just, yeah, and find the right one. It's not easy to find the right one. And I've been...
Yeah. I think that's really important, is finding someone that you feel you can trust and be safe with, and you have a connection with, because otherwise it's just like you withhold from them and they can't really help you if you're like holding back. So, yeah.
And another advice that I feel like giving is something I always believed in, which is also part of one of the main topics of my other band's Lyrics That channel. Is like what other people think about you. If that is playing a role in making your mental health worse, just that. I know it's not easy, but that also needs work. But just I'm just putting it out there, and just sometimes I think that, but I can even like be affected by people's judgment. But at the end of the day, I know that they're not paying my bills, and they're not. They don't care. They're probably not even partying with me when I achieve my goals. They're just bring me down. So just don't pay attention to what people think. If what you do, it's not hurting anybody and makes you happy, just go for what you want to achieve in life. And the same goes for like seeking for help. If people think it's not a good idea, well, you're not a professional, man. Like you don't know. I know. I need help, and I'll seek for help. So and also I would say this is another thing. Things are popping in my head as I speak. Always check on your the people around you, because sometimes you don't even realize it, but you might be surrounded with one or more toxic people in your life, whether if it's friends or family members or partners and or job colleagues, whatever. So always check on it, and if you find out that person or those people are making you sick, there's not one single reason to keep them in your life. Like, this is the advice that I can give, because unless you want to work in that relationship, of course, because there is something more that keeps you bounded with them. But if there isn't a single reason to keep them other than I don't want to cut them out, I would just do it, cut them out.
That's it. Amazing. Well, Milo, I just want to take a moment. I want to say thank you so much for joining me. It's been great chatting to you, and thank you for keeping Fear Factory going. We appreciate you.
Of course. Thank you for having me, and thanks for the nice words. I appreciate that.